thanks for having me on, Mike. Appreciate it. As far as how did I get on this journey? It's kind of a long, windy road, but I imagine that's how most people that find themselves in my position feel. So, here's how my journey went. Was as a child, I was always interested in some of the more heavy stuff, some of the more dark arts, the kind of more, uh, dark music, heavy metal, gangster rap, which at the time didn't seem like a big deal. Didn't seem like there was any harm in that, right? I grew up in a Christian church, kind of more of a non-denominational church. I didn't like it. I had to go until I was 16. That was the deal my mother made. And when I was 16, I promptly stopped going to church. Um,
That's about when I quit going to church as well.
yeah, and it's funny because in my first book, I wrote about this idea of approaching this whole thing from a non-religious or non-Christian perspective, because a lot of my schooling is in the sciences. So I've got degrees in electronics engineering, mathematics, and systems engineering. So to me, it seemed like if you couldn't prove this with more of I'd call it a scientific method. It's not quite that rigorous, but
Mhm.
if you couldn't prove this without an angle of religious belief, then maybe there's nothing there. So when I first started this journey, I wasn't ever anti-Christian. I always had like kind of a vague belief in Jesus Christ, but I was never a real dedicated practicing Christian by any sense of the word. So, so I've always been into this kind of more dark stuff. Wasn't really sure why. Didn't really matter to me. I was always interested in aliens. In fact, I recall walking around when I was about 14 years old with a friend of mine, and we both watched, shows like X Files
Mhm.
and that movie Fire in the Sky. And for some reason, and it sticks out to me because my memory is not the best, but but I remember this. I remember we used to look up in the sky and yell for aliens to come abduct us, right? And all this will make a little bit sense later, but like these were that was kind of like in my formative years, like as a glimpse of what I was like kind of into. I wasn't doing any like
Mhm.
weird satanic rituals, seances, or nothing like that, but um, I was kind of always drawn to these dark subject matters. So then what was the next step of my journey? Was I was in the military. I met a guy who turned me on to William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. And I was
Mhm. The Lego book.
right. It's classic, right? And to me, it was kind of the best entry into this world of conspiracy theory because, and I'm sure people before Bill Cooper have written books just as, good or just as comprehensive, but that was the first one I picked up. And in it, he talks about the alien agenda, how the government's in cahoots with potentially, or maybe that's disinformation. He kind of leaves it a little bit vague there, but he was the first one that really opened up my eyes to some of the symbolism and the ideas of this occult group. And Bill Cooper has a religious angle to it. He comes more from a Christian angle. So that was the first step, and I said, okay, that's interesting. Then about 5 years later, another guy gave me a VHS tape of David Icke. And David Icke's, I don't remember the name of it. It was one of his first videos. I mean, it was real low budget. It was just him talking to the camera, basically.
Yeah.
And it was like freaking, I don't know, 6 hours. David Icke, he's the marathon man, right?
Yes, he is.
So, so I remember I was going to college and working full time at this point in my life, and I would have very limited time. And anytime I like have free time, I'd try to watch something, but I'd fall asleep. And I remember just continuously falling asleep trying to finish David Icke. He'd be talking about penis power and how the phallus has all this energy that these Illuminati types worship. And it was so outlandish. There's no way I could comprehend what the hell he was saying. So I finally, I remember I converted it to MP3, his whole lecture. And at work at the time, I was working on like building generator sets, blue collar job, and I had headphones in, and I would listen to this thing, and I didn't catch it all in one go through because I'm busy, I kind of doing stuff. So I remember I listened to this thing probably a dozen times, And it finally, like it kind of clicked in. I said, man, this is really fascinating. Like, why are all these ancient cultures worshiping snakes and crap? You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the dots that David Icke connects made a lot of sense to me at the time. So then I get done with my bachelor's degree, and I had about a 2 year period between bachelor's and grad school. So and at that point, I was so used to just, go, go, go. And I felt like I was just wasting my time. And I thought, and then I tried a couple of things. I tried drawing comic books. Turns out I'm not a good artist.
Well, or that career. You're not along with that because I can't draw worth a flip.
Well, so I tried to, what do you call it? I tried to get someone who could draw to do it for me, but like it didn't translate the way I wanted to in my head. And it was kind of based off David Icke's theories, the comic book. It was the idea of, basically kind of telling David Icke's ideas sort of in a comic theme. So that didn't pan out. So then I started a blog, a free WordPress blog. And on it, I thought, I'm just going to talk about, David Icke's stuff, conspiracy theories, the Illuminati. I'll talk about maybe like some music I'm into or movies coming out that I'm interested, just like a blog.
Yeah.
Then, you know, after doing that for a while, started kind of learning how to write a little bit better, how to give people what they wanted. I noticed everyone was interested in the David Icke / Illuminati articles.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me to say, okay, people like this stuff. Let me delve in deeper. And at this point, I had read a couple of David Icke's books. I don't know the other books. I picked up just a couple. I was still pretty new at it. It made a lot of sense to me because I read through and listened to it so much. Um, and I listened to all of his, 8 hour lectures he did at Wembley and all that crap. So eventually I started kind of going into just talking about symbolism that you see in music videos and films. Because for me, it was easy at the time because I was like, well, it's the same crap over and over. It's the same symbols. Uh, but long story short, that started my journey of really digging in deep on this material. I found out about other theorists like Freeman Fly who talk about the ceremonial magic aspect of this whole thing, which is like the key component that David I don't want to say David misses it, but he doesn't really go into detail on it. And from my studies into the occult and the Illuminati, that's like part and parcel to the whole thing. Like that's the whole reason they exist and the whole reason we are being led down this path that they want us to go down. So I learned more about from these other theorists, and then at some point, maybe I don't know, 2-3 years ago, I started just branching off my own, and now I'm just I got a stack of freaking books on the occult and symbolism, and Carl Jung's ideas. If you like, I started getting more of the heavy duty kind of non so fun topics, like at first it was kind of light and fluffy, and if you go through some of my old articles, you'll see they're pretty bad, but it's getting kind of heavy duty, and now I see the problem that people like David Icke have, where you say, "Oh man, I only got 8 hours. How am I going to get through all of this stuff and take people from 0 to 100?" Right? Because it's very difficult once you start going in too deep to not sound crazy or take it too far that people just shut down and say, "What the hell are you talking about, dude?" So, well, that's kind of where I'm at this point. And then, sorry, let me finish about the Igorstian thing too, because that's a key component here too. My first book, I approached it from a non-Christian perspective because I didn't like that a lot of the theorists were Bible thumpers, and they seemed to have this chip on their shoulder that they had this divine purpose for revealing this truth to everybody. And I didn't like that at all. Turns out they're kind of right. Like when I'm reading this stuff, it's another key component is that they desire the destruction of all religions, particularly Christianity. So I try to be a good Christian. I'm probably the worst example of it. So that's why I don't like talking about it. Because I mean, I don't go to church as much as I should. I don't read the Bible as much as I should. I don't talk or act like I probably should. But to me, at least, the awareness is there that I see why so many people bring the Christian and religious aspect into it is because, that's what they want to bring down eventually. So, Yeah, that's where the Christian angle comes into play as well.
Well, I can tell you one thing with me living in the Bible Belt down here in the South, if you stray away from Christianity, I'm no atheist. I'm not claiming that. I do believe that there's some form of creator out there, but I don't think that the Bible has all the answers and all the truth. But with, like I was saying, if you stray away from Christianity or anything, or even talking about the topics that are now we're going to tonight, you're going to hell. Like, because the churches down here, man, they are bad. There's a bunch of fire and brimstones, holy water. They get pretty serious down here. The thing is, I did not like the point or the fact of growing up into church, and because I like to question. I'm a thinker. I'm sort of a rebel, and I like to ask questions. But if you ask questions, anything about like how how did God create us or anything like that, well, you just got to have faith. And pretty much all that is just blind belief. I'm not trying to get onto this religious thing because it's not really that. It's kind of the thing is how how can we like as a society kind of grow out of this stagnated mindset and try to, I don't know, try to research topics like that you do and I do, because I think a lot of these topics that the alternative media or the conspiratorial side, a lot of these topics is what's going to bring, a better future in the world tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. I always had this kind of fascination or draw for the rebel sort of archetype, and man, I have a hard time with a lot of the angles a lot of these supposed Christian faiths come from because maybe that's just me trying to make excuses for my own behavior, but like I feel like they're missing the main message of basically just loving one another, and they come at people with this kind of judgmental, hypocritic, and like you said, just have blind faith. Well, you know what? Like a lot of people think too much for that kind of thing. And I go to an Eastern Orthodox church, and I talk to my priest about some of this stuff, and I say, like, what? How do you reconcile evolution? Like, I certainly don't know enough about evolution to be an expert on it, but like I've read the theories of how it hasn't been disproven, and I said, how do we reconcile that? And he says, we just don't know. There's some things we just don't know, and I like that he can at least tell me those kind of things instead of just like you said, like the blind faith argument. I don't know, I have a hard time with that.
And I'm sure it's a little better. It's crazy how I've been all over the United States with my last job. I've done a lot of traveling as well with the military, but there is a big difference with the North and the South, like with ideologies and things like that. And I know that the churches in the North are a lot. They're a lot less fire and brimstone. If you kind of catch my drift.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I kind of want to go ahead and move forward, get out of this, I guess, the religious. But yeah, me too. That's not left forte. Mine either. But it does kind of play into the whole picture, anyways. But I got this quote by, and I know you've heard it, by Woodrow Wilson. There is a power so organized, so subtle, oh, so complete, so pervasive that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in combination of it. And who exactly is he talking about? Is he just talking about the banksters, or is he talking about, I don't know, the elite or the Illuminati?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question is who is the Illuminati? We obviously don't have enough to definitively say, this person's in the Illuminati or that person, but you can tell by sort of like the fruit they bear who they are. And when you research a lot of this stuff, you find that the Illuminati, the best way I could describe it is this kind of historic procession, this line of people that were typically thought leaders at their time, like the Age of Enlightenment had the Isaac Newton and these various occultists that were into alchemy and such. Uh, we've got today's more modern day examples with like Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove, these kind of people these people that are in power, these elitists that feel like they need to meet in secret.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think you hear quotes like the one you just gave, and JFK talking about secret societies and crap, because people that know what's going on here, they know that these Illuminati folks, they are trying to kind of glean knowledge from these dark occult forces. And this knowledge that we're talking about was arguably the same knowledge handed down through these ancient mystery schools of, ancient Rome, Egypt, Greece, and they continue to teach these allegedly in today's secret societies and at these Bohemian Grove meetings where they're doing mock sacrifices of children and crap.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you get into it, the more you see that there's this kind of ultra wealthy group, and they're using their power and their wealth and their influence to push various messages and symbols that ultimately are this occult belief in a dramatic change in our world. They want to destroy it and rebuild it in their image and in their likeness through their belief system, which, like I spoke about a second ago, it includes this need to destroy religion.
Mm-hmm. And that's, are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one thing that my I, you always hear. I know the Freemasons is just one part of it. Uh, that's just one tiny faction of it. But I've heard many, or my grandfather, he's I think a 32nd degree, but he always says, well, before I tell you what he tells me, in this line of research, we always hear that a lot of secret societies, the Masons, the end goal is to do away with religion. But my grandfather always says you have to believe in God. He doesn't say you have to be a Christian. He just says you have to believe in God to be accepted. And my thing is, what God are they accepting? Is it something other than what maybe the Bible preaches, or is it some form, or do they know something that we do not know?
Yeah, and from what I can tell, they believe in an alternate version of history. That's where we get the ideas of the occult, because occult means hidden in Latin. It's a hidden form of history. It's an alternative version of history that the masses don't know or understand. And these people, being secret, they understand it. And the god that they speak of is Lucifer, which I believe that if they're probably concerned with coming out and saying, "Look, we worship Lucifer," because you'll have all these Christians losing their mind and saying, "Oh my God, you worship Satan." And I don't think that's necessarily the wrong response to that, because I believe they are the same entity. I think it's a deception. When you look at like the tale of Prometheus, that's the Lucifer character. He ascended to the heavens, took the fire from the gods, from Zeus, gave it to the humans because he wanted the humans to have more power and to not have to live in an oppressive state worshiping gods all the time. So in their view, Lucifer's a good guy. And to think that Lucifer is evil or wrong, they think that we've all been tricked into thinking that by a control system of the church.
Yes.
So it seems to me like and we see this through various symbols and messages, like when we talk about the Freemasons, we talk about, they show this concept through their, what do you call it, like dualism, where they show you black and white checkers on the floor of the Masonic lodges. It's this idea of good and bad, light and dark, black and white. And they're saying, like, we need to get rid of this kind of false dichotomy, and we need to merge the two together. Some people call it the reconciliation of the opposites. In alchemy, they call it the rebus. The Baphomet shows us this, where you see a male with female breasts. It's this idea of getting rid of this dualistic thinking and understanding there is no difference. There is no evil. They believe in a sort of there's connection or disconnection from this cosmic consciousness. And then to me, it seems like they worship Lucifer as their god. And when you look at today's culture, you can see that, in all honesty, a lot of these tenets from the Church of Satan are all over the place with the concepts of individualism, with the narcissistic Facebook stuff, and self gratification and greed, and CEOs making just hundreds of times what the average workers make, and people kind of accept this attitude at this point because, like, what's his name from Wall Street said in the 80s, greed is good.
Mm-hmm. You brought up Lucifer a while ago. Now, of course, what I'm about to say, some may think that's crazy, but of course, Lucifer means the light bearer, correct? And I guess kind of goes back to the Bible with the snake, and bite, and with Eve taking the bite of the fruit of the apple of knowledge. And is it necessarily a bad thing for, I guess, certain rogue, I don't know, like secret societies or the elite or whatever? Is it necessarily a bad thing to seek more knowledge, to seek enlightenment, or is it just because a lot of these rogue groups within the world, they got many different names, but maybe because they use it within I guess in a satanic sort of way to try to control society and to try to fulfill their own personal agendas.
Yeah, I think the way they're doing it is what I don't like. Um, they're they're trying to instill this attitude that I believe is actually working quite well for them. Where it's good to learn, it's good to become enlightened. It's not to say that we shouldn't.
It's the way they're doing it, correct?
What's that now?
It's just the way they're doing it, that they're not doing it in the right way.
Yeah, and I think they do it. I think they justify it because the ends justify the means to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they think they're doing us a favor. But they like I said, they obviously can't come out and say, look, this is the right path to choose of worshiping Lucifer, because people will lose their minds. So they have to kind of sprinkle the little pixie dust and lead us down a path, and they do that through entertainment, which is nothing new. Francis Bacon talked about how it was easier to teach someone through entertainment than it was to lecture directly at them or have them read a book. So they've been using this for a long time. That's the manipulation through music, which in ancient Egypt, the magician god Thoth or Thoth, he invented the music, and Osiris used it to control the world. That's the ancient Egyptians' belief in that stuff. So I think it's, again, like I talked about, it was taught in these ancient mystery schools, and they still believe it to this day.
And I think that's actually where the next little step I'm glad you brought that up, Isaac. But have you seen the movie Gods of Egypt?
I have.
Tell me, of course, I may be asking you to speculate or theorize. Of course, there's a lot of things that we just can't explain. But tell me how much truth. Of course, I'm not really a flat earther, but tell me how much truth in that movie do you think that they're actually revealing?
So I saw it a long time ago when it came out. That was like, what, about a year ago.
Yeah, a little over a year ago, I think.
And you said in it they had a flat Earth concept. Is that right?
Well, yeah, in the movie I think it was Horus. No, Ra. It was Ra. He was he was above the earth, and he kind of had his own little. I need to watch the movie again as well, but he kind of had his own little, I guess, spaceship type little deal, and he was kind of near the sun, because being Ra, and they showed a glimpse of Earth, and it was flat. And of course, the flat earthers they took over that, but I really wasn't going towards that. I really wasn't going towards the flat Earth deal, but what I was
During the
about,
subscriber on the flat.
yeah, yeah, me either. But what I was kind of leaning towards, because I know they use a lot of symbolism with Horus and with the eye, because they had this they had to try to find the eye of Horus, and they had to find to give the eye back to him, because I believe the eye was stolen. And I was just wondering, have you broken down this movie any with your YouTube videos?
No, not specifically. I talked about it before it came out, and I hadn't seen it at the time. But yeah, you're right. That's kind of like the main message behind it is this pursuit of this all-seeing eye. Again, this is symbolism we find from many of these groups, these people that fall under this umbrella of the Illuminati. And it depends on who you talk to as to what this eye means. Some people say it's the evil eye, a direct reference to Lucifer. Some people claim it's a reference to the Watchers from the Bible or the Nephilim. These are the hybrid offspring of the fallen angels. Again, it's this concept of the rebel archetype. And a lot of the occultists, or even some of the New Agers, which loosely ties into the occult, depending on how far in you go, but they believe that the eye, the all-seeing eye, symbolizes the third eye, and this third eye it's this space in the brain where the hypothalamus is, and they call it the bridal chamber. And they think once you waken this third eye with a certain amount of energy or focus, you can become awakened and open up your pineal gland.
Mm-hmm.
And this pineal gland in the history of the occult was used. So this is where I start sounding a little crazy, I think. But
Bear with on me, guys.
the if you read some of the history of the occult through, there's a guy who wrote a book. Who the heck was it? It's a real good book. I think it's called The Secret History of the World. And in it, he talks about what these occultists believe. They believe what had happened through evolution was that back, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, our pineal glands of the third eye was more pronounced. And in the Bible, when the serpent promises to open up I think that's a quote from the actual Bible, is he says he'll open up the eyes of Adam and Eve. Mm-hmm. He's saying he's going to give them the knowledge of this, of opening up this third eye. And what that does for people, or what it did for people a long time ago, was it allowed them to have a communication with the gods and the goddesses from another dimension, from another realm. And over time, through evolution, this pineal gland slowly kind of inverted itself inwards and became shut down. So when these occultists talk about awakening the pineal gland or the third eye or the all-seeing eye, they're talking about opening up the doors of perception. In Hinduism, it's a gateway to the higher consciousness. Theosophists believe in this kind of physical, spiritual purpose that evolution kind of worked back into our minds, and they want to reawaken it, which is the story of Horus getting his eye ripped out by Set, and then having to use Thoth and his magic to reattach it.
And that's what happened in the movie. I need to watch the movie again. I watched it late at night, and that's exactly what happened in the movie. That's what I was wondering, how accurate. I'm asking these questions whenever my memory is a little vague, but on the movie. But I was wondering how, because Hollywood, they spill a lot of truth in their movies, and a lot of it comes out within TV shows and movies. And I was just wondering how accurate was that movie, because that's exactly what happened. Set he stole his eye, and because he lost his powers within the movie, and then he did get the help within Thoth to try to help, I believe, to try to find his eye again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the same reason we see the all-seeing eye in so much stuff. I mean, you do a Google search for Illuminati all-seeing eye, and you'll see, Rihanna, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Beyonce, Jay-Z. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Is it just a fad, or is it, or do some of these, I don't know, some of these people, these groups in Hollywood, do they actually believe it holds some powerful significance?
So I think that when these artists and these entertainers, I believe firmly they are, I'm going to call them puppets, and that's maybe a bit harsh.
Okay.
Because they're talented. I'm not trying to take away the talent. Some of them, most of them, some of them are utterly rubbish and don't have any
Yeah.
talent. But for the most part, these people work hard to get where they're at. They've got a good talent. I'm not saying I'm above listening to Jay-Z or Katy Perry or whatever. Like I listen to all that stuff too. Yeah, I'm trying to trash people's music. But to me, everyone knows there's a price to pay to become famous. There's tons of people online in interviews, Bob Dylan and such, talking about how they had to, sign over their soul to the devil in order to become famous and have their music shared by the music industry, because there's gateholders, there's gatekeepers. And when you get down to the kind of the darker, deeper recesses of this thing, there was a movie that came out, a documentary that came out. Lost it. There's a documentary that came out about this lady exposing the Hollywood child abuse pedophile rings, and then you find out that these child actors were required or tricked into doing sexual acts with these adults in Hollywood in order to get certain roles on certain films or commercials or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So using that same line of thinking, when we see Justin Bieber giving us the all-seeing eye in a clearly staged photo, and surely it's enough, like a set, it's not just on his Instagram. He's casually walking out his door to get the in the car or whatever. To me, I know that this has to do with the Illuminati that want to steer the masses towards this thinking. And it was always confusing to me as to why. Like, what is the strength in this? There's no, just because they do that over on their eye, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change my opinion on anything. It's not even telling me anything, right? But you have to read, so you have to read some of the literature from people like Carl Jung, a psychoanalyst that study this kind of stuff. And Carl Jung was very educated in the occult. He was a Gnostic. He studied alchemy in depth, and he was half obsessed with symbols. He said symbols gave purpose to man, and he knew that the ancient occultists were aware of the power held by symbols and how you could convey entire thoughts through symbols used in, you'll see these in occult practices, Freemason rituals, ceremonies, that kind of thing. Another example is like magicians will use a triangle and a circle to conjure up the spirits through the triangle of manifestation, which is arguably what Jay-Z and Beyonce show us every time they put up the rock diamond.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why they're doing it is because it's talking to our subconscious. They are priming an atmosphere, whether we know it or not, that the symbols speak to the subconscious, which is, Carl Jung said that's because speaking to the subconscious talks directly to the shadow side. It's this unconscious part of the ego, and it's always there, and that is where the creative side exists, which is, again, they pick these artists because they are more in tune to their creative energies, which, if you can get someone with creative energy and access to it, they are basically harnessing a certain shadow side of their subconscious, and then they relay these symbols out to the masses in various high profile rituals like the Super Bowl or the MTV VMAs. And it talks to us on the subconscious level, and they're, like I said, they're kind of priming for this future new world order in which we are supposed to kind of all believe in this occult belief system.
Yes, and David Icke kind of had you was talking about Carl Jung. He has a quote kind of going along with what you were saying. The human race is a herd. Here we are, unique, eternal aspects of consciousness with the infinity of potential. We have allowed ourselves to become an unthinking, questioning blob of conformity and uniformity, a herd. Once we can see to the herd mentality, we can be controlled and directed by the tiny few. And that's so true. And maybe that's one thing that they're trying to do. They want to, I guess, break that subconscious down, just because eventually, with repetitive behavior, are repetitive repetitions through Hollywood programming, through the political BS, and just through indoctrination in schools. One day, maybe they'll have whatever end game they want, whatever that agenda is. But going back to the symbol with the all-seeing eye and the symbology that you was talking about, what if these people in Hollywood, or just maybe the elite in general who practice these symbols behind the closed doors, what if they are actually in touch with some unseen force? Or I know back in Nazi Germany, what was it, the Brill Society? What if that they're I don't know, in league with some force that we just can't see? Just kind of like with Star Wars. The force is with you. What is that force? Is that what makes them so famous and gives them one step above the rest of humanity? Because how hard is it to get in Hollywood? Come on, you literally have to sell your soul. And who are they selling their soul to? Is it really the force? And we know Hollywood, they like to trickle the truth throughout their movies, and maybe the Star Wars was giving us the answer right there. Maybe the force is what they're actually selling their souls to, and that's what's giving them the elite or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, an extra edge over the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's funny you should mention that. That's my latest book is the Star Wars Conspiracy, and in it I've got a section on the Force.
Break it down for me.
I got a couple quotes here. So George Lucas once said he wanted to awaken a certain kind of spirituality with the Force. And I argue that he was successful in that because the characters of Star Wars are showing us a tale about the powers of this force, this kind of impersonal, universal version of God. It's the same as Helena Blavatsky's New Age cosmic consciousness, or Aldous Huxley's perennial philosophy. It's this idea of tapping into this energy field, and it's supposed to basically make all the religions we know of disappear. And you'll see a lot of this with the New Age ideas, like monism. It's this idea that we are all one. And it sounds great in theory. I'm not going to say that there's not a nice tone to that where we all, consider each other closer than what we should and maybe be a little nicer to one another. But to me, Lucas, he wanted to find a path that satisfied all religious beliefs. And I don't believe that you can do that without destroying all religious beliefs. So when we see the Star Wars film, we see the exact same. You see what we talked about earlier about the fruit that things bear. That's how you tell what they're from. Yeah. So what does the Force give these people? It gives them the ability to levitate. They're able to use mind control, telekinesis, divination, and all of these are the same ideas of Blavatsky and Hitler's Superman or the Super Aryan race, or this idea of this ancient Lemuria or Atlantis cultures. It's this idea of pursuing this kind of superhuman evolved form of man that doesn't exist. And they're obsessed with trying to make people believe it. And if you look at Friedrich Nietzsche, he was a nihilist, because when you study a lot of stuff, you'll see a lot of nihilism, which is this idea of kind of destroying the world as we know it. It's a real kind of dark attitude towards life. And Nietzsche once said, "Who wishes to be creative must first destroy and smash accepted values." So taking that a bit further, Peter Levenda, I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. No, yeah, speaking with you about H.P. Lovecraft. He just wrote a book about H.P. Lovecraft. So Levenda, he's extremely knowledgeable in this stuff. And I just saw that someone captured what appears to be Levenda inside of a OTO ritual. So, whether or not that's him, I don't know. I'm not claiming that. I'm just saying that regardless of whether or not he's in the OTO or a magician, the guy knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And I just got done reading his book called The Dark Lord. And in it, he talks about Kenneth Grant, who was an Aleister Crowley acolyte. Again, we're talking about these occultists, these ceremonial magicians. And part of the ideas that Grant explored was this idea of going into the dark side, going into this inverted side of the Kabbalah tree of life in the realm. This it's called Sephiroth of Darth. Sorry, not Darth. Doth. Daath. Which in the Star Wars book, I talk about how that connects us in with Darth Vader. Obviously, a lot of the symbolism and the ideas behind Darth Vader coincide perfectly with Daoth, the Sephiroth. So in the book, in The Dark Lord, Kenneth Grant, he talks about it and he calls it the Mauve Zone. And he says that it's the source of all human creativity, imagination, fascination, and obsession. It's represented in the microcosm by a zone that exists between the dream state and the deeper dreamless state, and is the source of artistic impulses and contact with divine and demonic forces. And that paragraph sums up every single thing that we've been looking at for years, why these artists are doing this stuff, why they're tapping into this dark side, this shadow
Exactly.
version.
Are you covering this in your new book?
I covered it in the Star Wars conspiracy. Yeah.
Okay.
And because that's kind of one of the concepts from Star Wars is not, people say, oh, we got to bring balance to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that mean? If you, in the definition of balance is you've got, on both sides of the spectrum, you have parts of equal magnitude, like a what do you call it? Like a seesaw or a teeter-totter thing,
Yeah.
But people falsely believe that, they're talking about destroying the dark side. No, that's not bringing balance to the Force by destroying one extreme. That's what they want to do is they want to make evil not branded as quote unquote evil. They want to make it more normal, more accepted.
And they use musicians such as Katy Perry, singing, with her album or her song Dark Horse. I'm sure you're familiar with that as well.
Absolutely. The dark hero, you had all the Egyptian symbolism with the dark horse video. Hang on a second. I got pit bull dog fights outside or something. Hang on a minute. But yeah, and to add one more idea onto this topic of the power of symbols and symbolism, and our modern culture, we've got a thing called a meme, which it's kind of like, I don't know how you define meme, but Richard Dawkins, I believe, is the one that came up with that concept of memetics, and it's sort of like the idea of a symbol and how it's easily accessible to people quickly. And Donald Trump, it's fascinating. Donald Trump was able to get in, and many people believe that it was through the powers of meme magic because he was associated with the Pepe the Frog meme. If people Google Trump, Pepe the Frog, meme magic, there's a guy or girl, I don't know who wrote it. Someone wrote a nice article that it should be like the top of the Google results, but it explains how this meme magic works and all the weird little oddities that came along with it because no one thought Trump was going to win. But Pepe the Frog was voted most influential fictional character of the year by Time magazine as well, just to add a little more curiosity to this whole thing.
And kind of going along with the symbolism and I guess numerology as well. But of course, do you remember back? I'm not a real big wrestling fan. I was when I was younger, but
you'll watch that language now, buddy. I'm an 80s wrestling fanatic. Oh yeah,
I watch it every now and then just because you never know what in the hell you may see. Like it could be well, talking about with the type of things that we're interested in, with the occult and things like that. But do you remember when Trump and Vince McMahon got into it? I don't know, about 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, I don't know that I saw that particular thing. I mean, I watched it from probably like 84 to 97 ish.
Yeah. Well, about 10 years ago, it was this little debacle between Trump and Vince McMahon. But what made me think about that because we were talking about Trump, and one thing I was just thinking about this the other day, Isaac. This April next month is WrestleMania 33. There you have the 33 uh, numerology, and then the Raw logo, WWE Raw's logo with the A in between the R and W. It makes an uncapped, unfinished pyramid. Exactly. And then a beast that he's he's one of the new guys that they're really pushing right now. What I find is really crazy is Braun Strowman, and he's 33 years old.
Huh.
And then, and guess where he's born? He's born in Orlando, Florida, and that's where they're going to have WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. And what NBA teams there? The Magics. And here you are having the WrestleMania 33 with all this crazy things like, you know, the NBA with the Magics.
Right.
And also the same town as the Orlando nightclub shooting, you know. And then you got the Club 33. I know Disney, Club 33 is actually in California, but it's still part of Disney. And Disney is in Orlando.
Right. You know, and a lot of those Disney affiliations are allegedly tied into some of this child abuse concept. If you read Kathy O'Brien's book, Transformation of America, she talks about how she was transported there. And, you know, the one thing I can say without a doubt is Disney is really good at manipulating the minds of the masses. I mean, the power to do it. They use a lot of odd ideas, like how they're constantly killing the parents in these movies. These parents are either dying on film, or they're already gone, or they abandon the children, which is exactly what we see in Star Wars. Even though most of those, you know, all those movies essentially were made before Disney owned the franchise. I lay it out in the book, the various examples of how, you know, it's unbelievable how many times people are asked to kill their own father, or the Anakin's mom dies in his arms. Um, you know, spoiler alert if you haven't seen episode 7. You know, the one guy kills his father. That's all I'll say. But anyways, the list goes on, and I'm like, God, this is the same crap we see in all these Disney movies where, you know, Bambi's mother gets shot and killed, and, you know, it's traumatic, man.
Yeah, I know. And I want to get your take on something while we're kind of still, I guess, on this symbolism and things like that, kind of the dark occult side of it. Because you're a little more knowledgeable on this than I am, because I've watched many of your videos. So I want to get your take. Now, I can come up with some crazy, awesome theories, you know, but I just don't know how to explain it very well. But Goldberg is going to be, he's the champ right now.
Okay.
He's the champ. He's going to be at WrestleMania as the champ. And he's facing the beast, Brock Lesnar. Okay, catch the beast.
Oh, is that where he goes by now, Brock Lesnar?
Well, a lot of them call the beast, Brock Lesnar. That's his nickname, the beast. Okay, if you break Goldberg down, Goldberg is a surname of German origin, meaning Gold Mountain. Now, is there anything with that? Maybe I'm just overlooking things. That's just to me. This stuff is fun to look into. Is there anything deep, dark, and occult with the beast? Because one of my friends said that the Brock Lesnar is supposed to win the championship. He's a big time wrestler. I don't really watch it. I just watch it for the occult and everything. But he said it was right. He said Brock Lesnar is supposed to beat Goldberg for the championship. Are they saying anything with the beast beating Goldberg, which is the German name for Gold Mountain?
Well, that's funny you should say that. The first thing that comes to my mind, without, you know, doing much research on this, because I'm familiar with the names Goldberg because he was in WCW in the 90s when I was watching it. Yeah, obviously I know who Brock Lesnar is, but
They're pushing him big time right now.
I didn't know he went by the name of the beast. That's very important in terms of the occult, because like the great Freeman Fly taught me and many others, the symbol of the X and the O fused together summons this beast from the abyss called Nodens or Typhon. And this is again associated with Satan or the Dark Lord, depending on how much you want to look into it. But when we see that there's a fight between this this gold character, which I'm assuming, or the gold mountain. We could
Oh yeah.
we could maybe say that that's associated with the sun, and the beast is associated with the abyss, with the darkness. And we know that looking at World War II, Aleister Crowley helped Winston Churchill and the Allied forces battle Hitler and the Nazi forces. And the way he did that was by explaining the occult magic aspect of the whole thing, because as we now know, Hitler and Heinrich Himmler and all of those occultists within the Nazi party were heavy duty into this stuff. They really believed this. They believed in the power of the symbols. That's why you had 30,000 Nazi swastikas at these parades, because they knew they could influence the German people. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, that's how you explain the atrocities that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about the gold mountain and the sun versus the beast and the darkness, it could be again this kind of age old tale of good versus bad, and like I forgot to finish my thought there on Crowley. He instructed Churchill to use a symbol of opposite power, and that was the V, and the V was a solar power symbol. And that's supposedly, and that's where the peace sign come from, is from Winston Churchill using that, who learned it from Crowley. And ever since that, we've been using that. And it's calling upon a solar entity to fight the dark entity of the beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought that was very interesting. I just kind of symbolized as the Goldberg with the gold mountain. At least that's what I found. It could mean something else in another language, but German. I I dug and it meant gold mountain. But I kind of symbolize that as, I guess, maybe the United States, because we're still kind of the powerhouse in the world still. I know China and Russia's up there too as well. And I just kind of thought, are they symbolizing something by that we are going down, that I don't know, this antichrist or whatever figure or whatever agenda that they're going to usher in, which is the beast, and they're going to knock us down in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to make a prediction like that. I try not to go out on a limb too far if I don't have
I know it's getting pretty cuckoo here though, but but I tell you what, this stuff is fascinating, and I love to speculate and theorize, because that's how you can kind of come up with solutions and answers and eventually maybe truth.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the fun part about the whole thing. And sometimes I write articles just to explore the idea, and people sometimes get their panties in a bunch on it, but yeah.
hmm But okay, we broke down enough of the Illuminati and symbolism and some of the occult. Um, now that we broke that down, and do the decision makers of this world, or we broke down Illuminati and the decision makers of this world, where does the UFO alien discussion fit in with their agendas? What have you come across your research, Isaac?
Well, a lot of people, a lot of theorists, they believe in the what's it called, Project Bluebeam concept that was put out there by, that was Sergei Monast. Basically, they believe that the Illuminati are planning this big false flag deception on the human beings by uh, doing a kind of holographic deception using technology similar to what we saw Tupac rapping at Coachella with, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been hearing about this for a long time, and we've heard that they say that I'm going to get this backwards probably, but either the Muslims or the Jewish people are going to be projecting holograms of the Temple of Solomon, or a mosque, or vice versa, in Israel, in order to bring about the rapture, or something to that effect. But they basically want to use technology to project images of gods to each nation. So, like, for instance, in America, most people identify as Christians. So here they would have holograms of Jesus all over the place, and these fake gods will say, "Hey, everyone, you know what? You had it all wrong this whole time. Turns out all religions are right, and we are all one." Again, this ties us back into this idea of monism, or this perennial philosophy of Aldous Huxley's or the cosmic consciousness. As you see it all over the place because they want us all to believe in one truth, and it's their occult belief system. Now, when you when you dig into this, they want to channel these alien entities because they think that the aliens are the only path to human salvation. These people are obsessed with the ideas of evolution. That's why, Hitler was pursuing the super Aryan race, and I think it was called the Lebensborn. How they were trying to like make kids these super advanced soldiers and stuff. But they think that some people are evolved further, and that includes these alien races. So they want to make contact with these aliens. And depending on who you talk to, these aliens are merely just demons. They are fallen angels, damaged gods, as Kenneth Grant puts it. But that seems to be the idea we have there, because if you look at NASA's obsessed with finding alien life. They still desperately want to show us that there's these planets where there's got to be life, and they haven't done anything yet. I'm not saying that. And look, I get it, because even when I wrote my first book, I was kind of on board with the idea of like, look, aliens exist. Like, it's impossible for it not to be. I mean, look how big the universe is. And I'm not saying aliens don't exist. I do believe they exist. However, my perception on what aliens are has changed at the moment based upon a lot of this research. I think they are merely demons. They're demon spirits.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm glad I'm glad you brought that up. Because I've always been a big time Bill Cooper fan. And he brought this into the equation as well. And a lot of other researchers, they mention that these aliens, these extraterrestrials, are demons. And if I had to theorize, let's say that we're being contacted. I guess we have aliens here on Earth that maybe they're disguised somehow, or maybe they're just in some type of spirit form. Who knows? But if they have, I guess you could say, evil, or they are demonic, or whatever it is, maybe that's the reason why there's a lot more, I guess you can say, evil in the world. And there's always been wars and rumors of wars over the centuries, because the elite of the world, whatever you want to call them, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they're in league with these, or the dark cabal is in league with these dark, satanic, demonic aliens. So I know that's a crazy, wild theory, but tell me your thought.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, man. I don't. It sounds crazy. It sounds absurd, but if you look at what the occultists believe, I mean, go straight to their literature, you'll see this stuff. You'll see that they worshiped the planet of Saturn. And why was that? Well, it's because that was, at the time, the outermost planet. It was the darkest planet. It was the dark hero. It was representative of this rebel angel, Lucifer. Saturn is tied in with, Satan on some levels, but it was the sixth planet from the sun. And they worshiped this Saturn as an entity. So if you look at David Icke's work, he talks about the archons being the alien force that guides these Illuminati types. And what they want is they want to have all these wars and death and fear in the world because they use it as a form of sustenance. That's his theory on it. That's his outlook on it. I don't know that I disagree entirely with that. I mean, his stuff takes a lot of, I don't know, it's pretty far out there, but I don't think it's so far out there when you look at some of the stuff that has been coming true. Like, for instance, that Project Blue meme I was talking about earlier, it appears to have no evidence for basis whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at what he had said, what's the notes on this? What he had said, I can't find it. But anyways, what the guy was saying was that there was a 4-step plan to implement this new world order through alien belief systems. And I think it was the first step was to have this fake earthquake or maybe a real earthquake created by HARP. I don't know. And there's this earthquake where it's going to uncover archaeological evidence, which is going to disprove so many of the belief systems that we have in place today. And that is essentially what we see from the Ancient Aliens TV show. Because, and I talk about this in Star Wars too, because I've got a whole chapter on the alien agenda, because that's part of the Star Wars tale as well. But the Ancient Aliens show, as much as it breaks my heart to say, because it's probably my favorite show to watch and it has been for many years, the supposed archaeologists on the show have no background in it whatsoever. They're not anthropologists. They're not archaeologists. They don't have any education in the matter. I mean, the closest one of those guys comes to it is David Childress, who I guess he, according to Wikipedia, which I guess could be wrong at times, according to Wikipedia, he registered for one semester of college, but then dropped out immediately. So, I mean, he's got the most. Georgios Tsoukalos, he's got a degree in sports communication, and he was a bodybuilder promoter. None of these guys have any real knowledge on these subjects. And that's not to say every single person on Ancient Aliens is a liar or nothing like that, because they have a lot of guests on there, and some of those people know what they're talking about. But the major characters you saw from the first few seasons and some of the major theories that are presented, they're quite frankly pseudoscience. And the key giveaway is at the end of the show, you see who gives this show to us, who makes it. It's Prometheus Entertainment. So again, that ties us into, there you have it. These are all the same people. They're the Luciferians that believe Prometheus was trying to help humans, and they feel like it's their divine right and divine purpose to wake us all up to it.
It's crazy how things just keep on adding into the picture, right?
Oh, it's so insane. Because can't even keep my head on my focus.
I know. Like, I knew that about the Prometheus Entertainment, but I didn't even think about that when you was talking about it. And I was like, you're right. I didn't even think about it.
Watch, there's an episode about Satan or the fallen angel. I forget what they call it. A buddy of mine named Ken Amy did a video on this where he took some clips from the show, and you can watch the whole episode on like history, or if you can find it on YouTube. They're kind of hard to find on YouTube sometimes, but they had the whole episode, and David Childress and some of the other theorists are just going on and on about how Satan was misunderstood and he was really a good guy. And it's like, dude, this is exactly what's happening right here. This is what the whole show is about. And I hate to keep bringing up the Christian aspect to it, but like, they're the ones doing it, and they're the ones that push me right back into my own corner, where I'm forced to kind of be like, maybe there's something to this. Like, if anything else, this researching these subjects kind of makes me believe more so in Christianity than not.
Yeah. I just wish L.A. Marzulli could, I guess, stray. I'm not saying give up his belief, by no means. I don't ask that from nobody, but just kind of stray, I guess, whenever, especially when he's trying to come up with some answers and, try to dig for the truth, because I do believe that not everything, is in the Bible. You can't always go back to the Bible with everything.
Yeah, I don't believe the Bible is entirely a literal book. I think there's a mixture of, what do you call it? Like metaphor, allegory stuff. But I know I'm certainly not a priest or educated in those matters.
But a while ago, when we was talking about these demonic aliens, and of course, when I brought that up, just for my listeners, I'm neutral. I am 50-50 with about 90% of the topics that we're discussing tonight, because I hate to say that I believe in something, because tomorrow my perception of whatever we talked about tonight may change. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about knowledge. You kind of, that's kind of how we progress, evolve, I guess. But kind of bringing about that, the aliens being demonic. Do you think it's possible that let's say that they are the only ones here, what form, who knows, but they're the ones that have been here for centuries, like I said earlier, and Is it possible that they are the ones that have been feeding the mystery schools throughout the centuries?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I, it, when you read a lot of these occult systems and even some of these religions that have branched off of similar ideas, you'll see that they all have this kind of guidance from alien forces. Like Aleister Crowley, he channeled this alien spirit called Lamb.
I was just about to bring that up too.
Yeah, so he evoked basically what we know as the first gray alien, because that's he drew him and that's what he looked like. And like you were talking about earlier, Hitler and the Nazis, they channeled ETs through the Vril Society using Maria Orsic, which ties us into a lot of these ideas I presented in my hip hop conspiracy book, where I allege that the Illuminati used some of these artists to channel spirits. That's why you hear these rappers and crap talking about how they got all these alter egos. Eminem is Slim Shady, and he's an axe murderer named Marshall Mathers the next day, and then Beyonce's talking about channeling a spirit of Sasha Fierce through her body. But if you look deep, if you look at these people from a new perspective, based on a cult ideology of channeling spirits and goddesses, much like Hitler and the Nazis did, which they were successful at, because you had those. Hitler was trying to gain knowledge of UFO technology through these channelers, and then what happened? We had the Foo Fighters from World War II. These UFOs that the Allied forces kept talking about, how they kept seeing these UFOs. So apparently, Hitler was successful in that aspect. But yeah, I do believe that this is an ancient, belief. And in fact, that ancient astronaut theory stuff that wasn't started necessarily by Eric von Daniken. That was started by a Russian guy named Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. And Tsiolkovsky influenced Werner von Braun, who was one of Hitler's Nazi scientists that we brought over to America in Operation Paperclip. And von Braun was obsessed with science fiction and the ancient astronaut theories. And that's why he was so obsessed with reaching the stars, because he wanted to talk to these alien gods, which is what we see in movies like Prometheus, which is going to have more or less a sequel coming out in May.
Yeah.
But yeah, these there's different ideas of people channeling these entities, but to me, I can't help but think they're all evil deceptions.
And well said. And if these I guess these aliens are demonic in their stance here on Earth, is it possible that, because we know that religion, they talk about the Nephilim. We know that Zechariah Sitchin, for one, talk about the Nephilim, and a lot of the, of course, the ancient aliens, they talk about the Nephilim. Is it possible that the Nephilim that they're talking about is actually these demonic aliens?
Yeah, because to me, these UFOs, these aliens, they exist. I believe they're demonic deceptions. That explains how there can be these kind of like fantastic beings and these UFOs with no propulsion systems. It's because they appear in different manners to different people. So at the time of whatever time frame you want to say the Nephilim or the Watchers were around, that's what it was to them. It's, ancient aliens are referred to as the technological reference. Sometimes it seems like they're terrifying to some people. Sometimes they're friendly to people. It's very confusing stuff. Not to say that I want to see a UFO or an alien necessarily, because quite frankly, now it scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And to take this back to my first story at the beginning of this, when I was 14 calling for these aliens to abduct me, it's like, man, what? Like now that I feel the way I do about aliens, that scares the crap out of me. Like, thank God that didn't happen to me. And I think, what possessed me to want to do that? And I got to think it's the music and the films I was into at the time, and I'm not saying I don't listen to some of this Like I listened to like Danzig and Metallica and
Mhm.
hardcore rap music. I mean, that's some pretty vulgar stuff, but now I'm more cognizant of it, and I try to not let it affect me as much, and I find myself checking in with my emotions and my feelings and saying, okay, is this just to like pump me up to work out, or is this
Yeah.
starting to affect me personally and put me in a negative headspace?
And that's why that's when if I listen to some of that music as well, it's usually when I am to pump me up when I'm working out. But I kind of want to get into the. Did you watch the last episode of the X Files, or did you watch any of the X Files episodes of last year? Uh, what was my struggle? I think that was the name of the episode. Tell me your. I guess break it down. I know you may not remember word for word, but break it down. What was the entire agenda with my struggle, and like what are they trying to say, that we all have alien DNA within us, and are they trying to show us the plans uh of depopulation in the future?
Yeah, I'm trying to recall. I did a video on this, and man, I remember that Scully. She was, I think she was dying, or maybe, no, my bad. Mulder was dying of some kind of virus,
Yeah.
and Scully needed the alien DNA to save him.
Was it the smallpox or something like that?
I don't,
I don't remember either, but go ahead.
but yeah, if you watch, I remember that was for sure. The plot was something to the effect of needing these aliens as saviors because you needed their DNA to keep living. And sure enough, that's how it fixed Mulder up, which it kind of blew my mind because I remember the first, um, not the first season of X Files, but the first, go at it from the 90s. It seemed like Mulder was kind of anti alien. So to see that on the new, uh, the new season or whatever that was, that little 6 episode arc of X Files was kind of surprising. Makes me wonder. I'm thinking they're setting it up to have a new season, but I mean, how long ago was that? That was almost it had to be at least a year, maybe 2 years ago that was on.
Well, I think the last episode was last year, sometimes 2016. I think or maybe it's 15. I'm not.
I don't know. It seemed like a long time ago, but anyways, I thought they were setting it up to have like a recurring series because they had, if you recall, they had like a younger guy and a younger girl, and I was like, oh yeah, it's obviously the new Mulder and Scully.
Eisenhower. I think Detective Eisenhower was the female. And it's kind of strange. I think it was Eisenhower, or not Eisenhower. Einstein. Detective
Einstein, yeah,
Yeah, Einstein.
right.
But what type of? Because I know they kind of talked about this alien DNA. And is it possible that we have this alien DNA within us, or let's say, I don't know, just with things that we know of with these chemtrails, or with just the additives in the food, or whatever it is, are they try to transform our DNA to, let's say we don't have alien DNA. I don't know, whatever your take is. Are they trying to transform our DNA, kind of how they were talking about in the X Files, that those in my struggle?
Oh, I don't doubt it. If you look at, uh, and that was part of my journey that got me into this was my skepticism of the food industry, and you read a few books on that, and I tried to go vegan, but turns out
I'm
it's
guilty
really
though,
hard
because I
to
love
do.
food.
I know I love food too, but like,
I'm guilty. I know there's a conspiracy going on, but I'm guilty of it. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
you make it so good, huh?
Yeah. But anyways, what were you saying, Fly? But yeah, I had to say that.
Yeah, but man, it's no different than the like the tobacco industry and so on. That when you find out in hindsight a lot of these things that these people were doing, it's downright nefarious what they do to try to sell you stuff that kills you. You'll notice like you don't see coupons for fruits or vegetables. You see coupons for Oreos and Cheez-Its and stuff like that. And like for instance, in the U.S. here, they fight hard to ban the labeling of GMOs. And if you look at what Kissinger said, he says you control the oil, you control the nations. If you control the food, you can control the people. And I think America is an experiment in that, where the food industry is in cahoots with big pharma, and big pharma. If you start picking them apart, you'll see the Hippocratic oath that doctors take starts out with pledging allegiances to these pagan gods and goddesses. In fact, the word pharmacist comes from a Greek word that means sorcerer or magician.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a lot of this marketing, and how big pharma works is through marketing, it pushes what they call the Me Too effect. It sells you on the idea that you have these symptoms. You say, "Oh wow, maybe I really do have restless leg syndrome at night. I can't sleep." And I'm
Like
not,
I problem my house.
and I don't want to make it. I'm not trying to dismiss people that do have these problems, but the drug industry would love everyone to think they have these problems. So, just you know, it's more likely you can't sleep at night because you've got a high stress job and you got anxiety and you drink a pot of coffee and rock stars. I mean, there's a million things going on where it's like a multi-component attempt to deceive us and make us not think and dumb us down. And it's done through big pharma, through the food industry. Cigarettes is a great example that we can look at the actual history of what these people try to get away with.
And does this kind of tie, we're kind of getting into the last bit of the show, but does this kind of tie into I don't know, the alien agenda? I know you said you wrote about it in one of your newest books, or your newest book, Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of, I won't ask a lot out of you, but what is the alien agenda? I guess kind of sum it all up.
Well, if someone wants to really understand what these people believe, a great way of doing that is to read Arthur C. Clarke's novels, starting with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then all of its sequels, which I believe it goes 2001, 2010, 2061, and then 3001, I think. So it's like 4 books. And what it is, a lot of that stuff they talk about in this is what's going on. And that's why Kubrick showed it to us. Because, I wrote that book on Kubrick called Kubrick's Code, because whether or not he was trying to help us or, reveal the agenda happening to us, it's hard to tell. But either way, there's a reason why he chose 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it's a demonstration of how the Illuminati, want this to go. They want to evolve mankind. And if you look at this is not anything to be made up. If you read the, Wired magazine and that kind of stuff, the technology, read Ray Kurzweil's books. I read a couple of his books. He's a futurist. He's right now the director of engineering at Google. And we all know that Google's tied into various, I don't know, better watch what I say, but Google got its own stuff going on, right? But in the series of novels by Arthur C. Clarke, he talks about how they use an alchemical process and alien intervention to evolve mankind, and it's seen through the astronaut David Bowman. In the movie, he goes to Jupiter, but in the book, it was supposed to be Saturn, because again, they have this obsession with Saturn. He is the Dark Lord. But supposedly in the movie, they couldn't duplicate the rings of Saturn, so they chose Jupiter, whatever. But in the books, this David Bowman, he was out there. The alien monolith is what guides him out there. And when you read all the books, you find out that these alien monoliths are they're the reason why mankind has evolved. That's why they show them at the beginning of 2001 when the apes are reaching out to the monolith. The monolith is evolving them, saying, "Hey, here's how you kill another mammal and become dominant." Well, you apply that logic over and over again, and turns out by the end, these aliens have found a way to. They're fully evolved, like I said, but they found a way to make themselves live immortal as digital forms of light, which if you look at the pattern and the trend of technology through Moore's law, that talks about how the computing capacity of chips is going to double every couple of years. that is exactly what they are leading us into. It's a transhuman age. They want to get rid of the human as a species altogether. They want to be gods of their own and make a new species, this transhuman. And they think they can glean some knowledge from these alien gods of theirs, these demons. But what it means is the death of all mankind. And what's scary is like this is the kind of crap that's going to happen to us in the next 12 to 15 years. We're going to have to make this choice of living in this fake virtual reality digital world, or tough it out the old school way.
Exactly. And I guess I'm gonna throw one curveball. So this is something we really not really discussed at all, but this will be the last question. What the hell is going on with Antarctica? I guess give me your wildest theories or whatever you have come across. It's all kind of everybody on YouTube and the internet's talking about all the theories and speculation about Antarctica. What's your take, Isaac?
Well, I know Hitler was supposedly trying to set up a camp down there, and some even go as far as to claim that he actually made it there. And I believe that they actually tested what was supposed to be the skull of Hitler's, and it turns out it wasn't even a man's skull, I believe. So there must be something to do with Antarctica. I don't. It's not a topic I've devoted particular interest in. So yeah, I might not be able to hit your curveball too well, but I know for sure Hitler was interested in going down there. So that does beg the question of what's going on. And I think the flat earthers would tell you that because that's where you find out that the Earth is flat and there's no spherical nature to it.
Hmm. Yes, and that's exactly what they believe. But Isaac, I really appreciate you coming on the show this time. Man, you are loaded with a lot of great information, especially when it comes to the occult, to the Illuminati, the symbolism. You break it down very well. And where can people, I guess, find your material, your books, and just all of your other outlets out there?
Oh, well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate having me on here, and I'm definitely loaded with something, that's for sure. But no, you can if people want to learn more, they've got a few options. One, go to illuminatiwatcher.com. I've got a free email newsletter that's literally going to me and me only. I do not sell those. I do not do anything weird with them. I do not spam you out. I send news updates. I send, free book offers if I have any. I send articles from the archive. I try to hit an email maybe every 3 days. You might get one every 2 days. It depends on if I'm busy or writing articles. So that's option one, is just go to illuminatiwatcher.com, sign up for the email. The second option, you know, there's books all over the place. I've got them almost all of them are all of them are on Amazon.com. And then I've done a lot of really popular author narrated books, audiobooks on audible.com, which is retrievable through Amazon as well. A lot of people that have never used Audible, I tell them if they have never used it, they can sign up for a free trial membership, get my books for free, and then you can cancel it before the 30 days if you want. But by all means, I just want people to get the material. And more than anything, I want people to start listening to some of these ideas that these conspiracy theorists and, people such as yourself that are trying to explore these ideas and get rid of the taboos behind it. Quit scoffing at these ideas of, Beyonce being in the Illuminati, because there's so much more to it. So, you can read my books, or I've got a YouTube channel that's really popular under Illuminati Watcher 1. You can sign up for that or subscribe to that too. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place. It kind of depends on what people are into. I myself like audiobooks, so that's why I always push the Audible thing.
Hmm. I do as well. It's a lot easier to, especially, you could be running on a treadmill or in the park, whatever, working out, you can listen to these books. But Isaac, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'd like to have you come back on in the future to discuss maybe some of your other books, maybe go more into detail about your Star Wars book. But yeah, man, I really appreciate it, dude.
Right on. Thanks for having me on. I gotta appreciate it. All under this umbrella of the Illuminati. And it depends on who you talk to as to what this eye means. Some people say it's the evil eye, a direct reference to Lucifer. Some people claim it's a reference to the Watchers from the Bible. These these people that fall under this umbrella of the Illuminati. And it depends on who you talk to as to what this eye means. Some people say it's the evil eye, a direct reference to Lucifer. Some people claim it's a reference to the Watchers from the Bible, or the Nephilim. These are the hybrid offspring of the fallen angels. Again, it's this concept of the rebel archetype. And a lot of the occultists, or even some of the New Agers,